Hi, you're listening to God Goes in Government, a weekly conversation with Senator Kim Jackson, where she'll reflect on her journey as an Episcopal priest, farmer, legislator, and much more. I'm your host, Sharitha J., and I'm honored to share this space with you. Let's begin. Hey, it's your girl Sharitha J, and we're back for another episode of God, Goats, and Government. Hey, Senator Jackson.
Hey, Sharitha, it's so good to see you. And real quick, since we just heard the opening, I just want to shout out Mr. Charlie Cork. He heard our intro before you edited and reminded us that you were still calling me a freshman legislature. I will say I got some beef with you though, Sharitha, because he gave clear recommendations. He was like, I think you should be listed as like the veteran lawmaker or even the star legislator. I didn't get anything. No superlatives at all. I'm just a legislator now. So
Full stop. It is what it is. But don't give me any ideas because I will play around with this intro. So
it's all good. No. But real seriously, thanks to Charlie and Vicky, who are long-term supporters of the work that I do, both here at the Capitol, but also at the Common Ground, and grateful for their feedback about the pod.
excellent. Well, we love listener support. And also, it's so fun to have our listeners connect with us on various platforms. So, guys, we continue to extend that invitation. Connect with us on social, connect with us on YouTube, anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. Let us know. We really do check in. So thanks again, Charlie.
All
Yeah.
right, so what you got for me today?
Oh, well, first things first, I saw, and as I'm sure others did as well, that you were hanging out with another senator this week.
Oh, very different kind of senator, though.
That's
Uh,
right.
yeah, I got to see and spend a little time with the Reverend Senator. Actually, I should say he goes by the Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock.
Wow.
I know, right? But the senator who actually does work in Washington, the Reverend Senator, or the Senator Reverend who does work in Washington, D.C., swung by the Capitol and gave a little shout out and said hello and brought some words of greetings to both the House and the Senate. But he also had a smaller meeting with those of us in the Senate Democratic Caucus. So it was a lot of fun to see him. I haven't really spent much time with him since he's been elected. And so that was real fun to connect again.
Well, this is another opportunity to just kind of set the record straight, as I know many, including your family, think that you're in DC, but it's actually the Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock that's in DC, and we have this distinction between state and federal. So I'm really glad that he was able to come by and spend some time under the gold dome with you
Yeah,
guys.
it was great. I guess is the Capitol in DC, their dome isn't gold, is it? Right?
You know what? And I've been there, and I should know
I
this.
have too.
It was under construction the last time I was there, so it had all of these various.
I don't think it's gold. So he came to visit the Gold Dome. I think we can say that definitively that it's only in Georgia. Yeah. And the one at the Capitol. Somebody's gonna correct us. We could Google this later. But anyway, it was great to have him. It was great to have him back home in Georgia, with people who he knows and loves and cares about. And he was there advocating for us to expand Medicaid, which of course we can all get behind. So it was great.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Senator Jackson, let's continue to hop into this week because I know it's been a busy one for you. In our last episode, it was a very emotionally charged week. The previous week, touching base with HB 30, but you've continued to do the work as you always do. And up in this week, up in the queue, I saw that you had a press conference. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we started the week off with a press conference with the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center. I've been talking about this and dropping little breadcrumbs in the podcast about it for a while. But it finally happened. I did a podcast to really talk about their new report that they've issued called A Call for Georgia to Stop Criminalizing People Experiencing Homelessness. And but also to announce that I am working in conjunction with SPLC to drop some legislation that will be positive, good for people who are experiencing homelessness legislation. So we don't have a bill number for that quite yet. Just is not exactly ready, but really excited and eager to talk about the importance of us creating some collaborations across agencies and across even across services, right? So
Mhm.
nonprofits and state agencies getting together to really come up with a comprehensive plan across the state around homelessness. So it's exciting work, and I was glad to be with SPLC and with people who are experiencing homelessness as we called for an end to the criminalization of people who are experiencing homelessness.
Fantastic. Well, I can get behind this move. It's clearly an issue that's near and dear to my heart as well. So I'm excited that you are working in conjunction with this group, and also I think this is a great time to share a little bit from that press conference so that folks know what's happening. Let's take a listen.
Well, good afternoon. I am State Senator Kim Jackson, and I represent District 41, which covers portions of DeKalb and Gwinnett counties. I have spent several years fighting to solve a statewide issue that's incredibly near to my heart, and I'm excited to be here today with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the SPL Action Fund as they release their new report, Sheltering Injustice. As many of you know, we are dealing with a real crisis in our state. Again, as of 2022, approximately 10,700 people were reported as sleeping homeless or as experiencing homelessness in Georgia. And 52% of those who are experiencing homelessness are sleeping outside, in cars, or in other places not meant for human habitation. We must address this crisis now. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge that the incredible steps that the city of Atlanta has made in alleviating homelessness in this city, including the fact that they opened a brand new 40-unit rapid rehousing community just this Saturday. A huge thank you to the mayor, Andre Dickens, for signing an executive order allocating $4.6 million towards continued efforts to end homelessness. But let me be clear. Homelessness is not just an Atlanta issue. This is a statewide crisis that requires a statewide coordinated response. We in the Georgia General Assembly can and must do more. In 2022, as part of a continued step to address this crisis, the Senate formed a bipartisan study committee on unsheltered homelessness. And the Department of Audits and Accounts recently performed an audit on homelessness spending. Both reports, the final report from the study committee and from the state's audits and accounts initiatives, called for a better, higher level coordination process across agencies in Georgia. The SPLC Action Fund explored this idea, and together we've come up with a place where we are wanting to create an interagency council to enact practical solutions for this crisis. There's similar councils like this across the states, and we need one in Georgia. The good news is that our state is not lacking in resources to solve the problem. We're just lacking in coordination to solve the problem. And that's why I am proud to announce today that in coordination with SPLC Action Fund and Legislative Council, we will be introducing legislation that revamps our previous efforts and helps to create an interagency council on homelessness, and one that ensures that the council includes people who have first-hand experience with homelessness. This
Awesome. Yeah, it was good. I'm really glad that we were able to do it, and I look forward to hopefully getting some really good legislation out there. It's honestly, it was just nice not to be playing defense.
Mm, wow. Well, we're going to get into talking about playing defense, but I have a quick question because this is kind of a behind the scenes look into what you how you prepare and how you get into things as a legislator. But tell me, like, I want to know, leading up to a press conference, how do you get yourself set up for that? Because it's a press conference. You're not just having a conversation one on one with me.
Right, right, right.
So,
Well, thankfully, there's a whole team of people who set me up. So, shout out to my chief of staff, Aaron Castle, but also to the folks at SBLC who provided us with lots of talking points. But there's speech writing that happens in advance. I will say, I ended up at my own press conference that I was hosting. I ended up being there late because we were on the floor. Um, for an absurdly long period of time. So I was late to my own press conference, but they went ahead without me. But it's just a lot of just knowing what you're talking about in advance, because the thing
Mhm,
about a press conference, and you all won't hear this, didn't get to hear this in the replay, but is that the press asks you questions and it's kind of like a pop quiz. You don't know what they're going to ask you, right? I have my written talking points, my own speech, it's already outlined, but they're not going to ask me a question that's already in the speech. They're going to ask me something completely different. And so it's a whole team of people who basically, I feel like they take my head and they open it up and they pour in like all the information they possibly can. And then I go out and I talk to the press, so I'm ready to answer whatever questions they have to ask.
got you. Were there any curveballs
You
with
know,
this
no
particular?
no curveballs, and honestly, it's because this is the work that I do every day, right? Like if this were a new field, if you and I didn't do the work we did with Common Ground, if we weren't already involved in the space of homelessness, there probably would have been it probably would have felt more curvebally, but I mean, we're talking about the work, we're talking about folks and the work we do every day. So I was very much ready. And really, what the SPLC and Aaron did was they gave me the stats to go with the antidotes, because you and I, we have the stories, but they gave us
Mhm.
the stats to go with it.
Yeah. I mean, and speaking of the stats, I mean, we really do. Once you guys, I really invite you guys to sit with the data that Senator Jackson shared. I mean, we see those numbers firsthand. We just had the point in time count. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's an annual count that happens in January. And we partnered with, by we, I mean, Church of the Common Ground partnered with Partners for Home to help make that happen, to have volunteers come out during one of our services at the peak of the week to count those who are experiencing homelessness in the city of Atlanta. So I think this press conference is right on time to get the conversation going. And I'm excited to see where it leads.
Thanks.
Now, defense. You mentioned it. We're going to talk about it. Glad you had an opportunity to be on offense and to share on a topic that you clearly know plenty about. And now we're going to move into talking about the defense you had to play this week with your own bill. You had a hearing. Tell us how it went.
Yeah, so wow, that hearing, first of all, so much gratitude to those of you all who emailed and called in advance, who really hyped me up, and I mean, we had over 50 people who showed up for the hearing in person, came down to the Capitol, did all the things. So very, very grateful, and I do want to start with a word of gratitude. And we fought really hard, and I put up a very strong defense for why it is imperative that we have students who land here as refugees, as special immigrants, as humanitarian parolees, why they need to have in-state tuition. I put up a
Mhm.
good fight, but I'll tell you, Shritha, 2 minutes before I went in to what felt like battle, I was told by the chair that we would be having a hearing only and not get a vote. So all this time in preparation, I'd been told we were going to get a vote. We even had like a whole conversation. There was a handshake involved. Like Everybody who showed up, we all came anticipating getting a vote on this bill. And
Wow.
literally 2 minutes before we started, I got that, hey, Kim, I need to talk to you. And that pull close in of, I'm so sorry, but, and so really devastating. I don't know. I'm trying to think of another an analogy. It's almost like it'd be like going to play a basketball game, and right before you get on the court, you find out that the score is already baked in, that there's nothing you all can do. You're going to lose. But you've got people who are there in the stands who are rooting for you, who are cheering. But more importantly, it's not just that they're rooting for you, but this legislation will be life changing for them. And so even though you're told in advance, you're not going to get a vote, you can't win this, you still have to show up and with your game face on and play the hell out of it. And I will say, I mean, we can play a clip of that as well, of kind of my opening speech that talks about why this bill is so essential. I gave it everything that I had, but on the inside, my heart was just broken because I set people up to believe that they were going to get a vote, that we were going to we were going to have a real chance to move the legislation, and we just didn't get that. That was stolen from us before we even got started, before the stories were even told.
Wow, Senator Jackson, I just want you to know you didn't set anyone up at all. As always, I appreciate how you move with integrity and to meet this moment the way that you did. It's not just a reflection on you, but it's a reflection of your constituents and how they believe in you and just the integrity that you have. So thank you.
Well, thanks. And another word of gratitude, particularly to Darlene Lynch, who sat beside me and actually answered a number of questions as a lawyer, because I'm not a lawyer. And all of the work, I mean, she did so much work to get us to the place that we're in. And honestly, my disappointment and sadness, is not just for myself, but it was also for her substantially. She put in so much time and energy, and then for those students who were behind me and who came and testified about how much it would have changed their lives if they could have just gotten in-state tuition. It was a devastating day. And also to have colleagues look us in the face and say, why don't these students just go to these lesser tier schools where it's cheaper and go ahead and get their education? And just and to say that without any sense, like without any like clue, like just completely clueless about what you're saying, right? Like, and it's not just about why shouldn't immigrants just go to lesser tier schools. That's a problematic statement in and of itself, but also it's still not cheap. And the cost differential between going to, let's say, Gordon State, for example. Gordon State costs $2,200 a semester for in-state tuition. Guess how much it is for out-of-state tuition, Sharitha?
4,000?
Nine.
Wow.
Nine. So go to a lower tier school, and I'm saying that in air quotes,
Play double.
right, where Georgia citizens pay 2,200, and you get the same exact education, same exact quality of education, simply because you are displaced. You are forcefully displaced here. You pay $9,000 for what this person has already described as a lower tier education. Like it reeks of separate and unequal to me. It reeks of creating a lower class of citizens. I mean, it took everything in me, Sharitha, to not just say, as a Black person, this is deeply offensive, because we've been here historically, right? Like, Black kids have been relegated to second class, to other kinds of schools historically, and we know where that ends. So it was just, I had
Which
so
is
many
why we
feelings.
created our own schools.
Right,
Our
right.
own. So, woosah.
Yeah.
I'm
So a
taking.
hard, yeah, no, it was just another hard week, man. Just another hard week. Because I had so much hope and so much, yeah, so much hope. and to have that just kind of pulled out from under us, to be disrespected in the committee. Those students came up and said told these powerful stories, and legislators literally sat on their phones. They didn't even hide their phones. They sat with their phones in their faces as they were like talking or looking and scrolling on their phones while students gave testimony about how their lives would be different if they could only get in-state tuition. It was incredibly discouraging, but it was also just rude in a way that I will never accept as normal in that place.
Mm. I want to acknowledge the courage of those students uh,
Yeah,
to to stand up and still speak their truth, to tell their story, to know that someone's not listening and still speak truth to power,
yep,
um, supposed power. I want to acknowledge that courage and also continue to encourage them. I know that this is beyond a pothole in the road, but when you have advocates and legislators such as yourself who push and stand in the gap, we have to believe that change can
yeah,
happen.
yeah.
So,
Thanks,
mm.
Sharitha.
Well, not for nothing. Again, that's two. Well, not even two. I was going to say two emotionally charged weeks, but you have been running a race here already. We started the year off with your family being swatted and just moving into the really challenging week, taking on, not necessarily taking on, but calling out in order to call in the ambiguity around HB 30 and listening to your constituents on that, and then
Mhm.
moving into your tuition bill, really not being heard, not given a vote. I can imagine that this has taken a toll. So for you to show up in this space, still willing to tackle these issues, I think it says a lot um, about who you
Yeah.
are.
Well,
So,
I will say, Sheree, that I don't do this on my own. There've been a lot of emails
mhm,
that have and cards, like actual physical cards. And Aaron and Tina, both my LA and my chief of staff, are amazing. When we get the physical cards, they make sure they put them on my computer so I can't miss them. Of folks who are pouring out love. They print out the emails. I received an email from a school teacher. I don't have it right at my tip of my hands, but he's a school teacher who is both a Christian. He runs, I think, the FCA and the GSA, so both the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and the Gay Straight Alliance. And so he listens to the pod, and he sent this. I mean, I don't know when he sent the email, but I will
mhm,
tell you that my staff put the email on my desk on the day when I needed to read it the most, as he talked about how grateful he was for the work that I do. And so I don't do this on my own. If I had to bear all the things that I've had to bear in the last 3 weeks by myself, I don't know that I would have kept going. But it is the love, the encouragement that I've received, the text message, the shout outs from so many people in so many places. And I am really clear that those are the places where I'm experiencing God, right? You always ask me, like, what are your God moments? Well, my God moments are those moments where email is printed out and put on my desk in a place where I just cannot avoid it. And it says, Kim, I know that life has been really hard right now, but we see you and we appreciate you. Or the card that's like the rainbow card that's like, yo, thank you for loving and seeing us. That's the stuff where God kind of shows up, um, you know, where all of the sadness and the hardship and the frustration and the anger, where love
mhm,
penetrates through that. Like that's really what's happening is in my brain, in my head, I feel like it is full of messages that are not beautiful, right? Like I am getting like pounded by all of these things that are mean and hateful and that ultimately don't help Georgians. And then I get a message and it penetrates through the noise, it penetrates through the hate. And it reminds me that there are Georgians, there are people all around this country who need to hear my voice, who are hearing it and appreciate that they're being represented well. So I'm extraordinarily thankful for that. And I'm clear that that's what is the wind beneath my wings, if you will, are the ways that God shows up through those folks to help me continue on.
God, goats, government, and gratitude.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of gratitude, I would like to also give a quick shout out to two of our listeners. We had one of your constituents actually on YouTube. Um, April says, appreciate your integrity, Senator Jackson, and thank you for being my senator.
Mm.
And then also, I got a phone call from one of our parishioners, Mr. Frank, who is currently in hospital. He reached out to send you a word of encouragement because he's been listening to God, Goats, and Government.
Oh,
And
that's
he
so precious.
heard, yes, he heard our last episode and he wanted to tell you to keep putting up the good fight.
Mm. Well, thanks so much, Mr. Frank. I know that we love you. We're praying for you while you're in the hospital. And if you don't get out of the hospital by Sunday, you're going to see me in your hospital room with communion. So obviously, this will have happened by the time you listen to this pod. But so very grateful. Grateful for a whole team of people again who do surround me in this work. And um, Sharitha, I'm okay. I know people have reached out because they're not sure. But I'm okay. I'm more than okay. And it's because of messages like that I just got. So thank you.
Indeed. So, Senator Jackson, we're going to keep marching forward. We're in February. Can you believe it? Like, that's the thing.
I know.
February. So what's ahead? Do we have anything to look forward to? What's in the docket?
Yeah, so down at the Capitol, we've got a couple of things to look forward to. There's still a mental health bill out there. It's there. It's being worked on behind the scenes. I think we're gonna get something good out of it. And so I'm standing by. I'm helping to provide some input on what we need, and I'm really optimistic. So look forward to that. Also, depending on how you feel about betting, sports betting is alive and happening. We had a vote on it on the floor this week to get it out of the Senate. Full disclosure, I voted no for it. I vote no because I really vote in honor of my brother who has a gambling problem, and this wouldn't help that. But I also, full disclosure, waited to see if they had the votes. I'm also very clear that my constituents want sports betting, and so I was very clear that in the event that my vote was needed, that I would turn it into a yes if it was needed, and it turned out they didn't need my vote. It still passed. So sports betting is a thing that we're going to continue to work on and tick away with. And so that's something to look forward to. And then I do have another bill. I have another bill that I think will really get a vote. Like I I am actually super excited. I've gotten all the right signals, even more so than I did with the tuition bill. One of the best signals is that the lieutenant governor reached out to me and said, "Hey, we want to help your bill move."
Okay.
So in the coming weeks, we will get a hearing and a vote on an address confidentiality bill, which would protect the addresses of victims and survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, stalking, of course, which is my area of expertise. But there are 42 states already in the nation that have this program, and so I'm looking forward to bringing it to Georgia. But they're good things. There are good things to come. And last but not least, certainly Medicaid expansion. It's still a live conversation. Still,
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, I can't make any promises, but it's still a live conversation. So, who knows? Maybe healthcare is coming to 500,000 people near us.
Oh, would be so
That'd be
grateful.
amazing. It would be.
It would be amazing. But Senator Jackson, all those things are important, and I want to make sure that everyone caught that information. But I also hear that you have a farm day, a cleanup day to look forward to.
Yes, I'm not sure, looking forward to it. It's a necessary day. So, people say, have the phrase that like goats will eat everything. It's not really true. Goats do have some discernment in their taste, but they will eat many things. And so today is a cleanup day because we're expanding their ranging pastures. And if anybody's grown up in the South, you will know that land that has been left vacant often becomes a dumping pit. And so I don't know, sometime in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s, people dumped random things onto our property, including an old washing machine, an old
Hmm.
dryer, there's probably a car, I don't know. But there's just a whole bunch of stuff. And so today, as soon as we get off the pod, I am with my farm manager, Taylor. We're going out to do a big cleanup, move out all that stuff so we can expand the pastures for the goats. So, got to make sure the goats have greener pastures because they're somewhere. And we'll do that today. So not necessarily looking forward to it, but it's a necessary part of the work is always keeping things cleaned up so that the goats can be able to graze without killing themselves by eating things that are bad for them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let us not keep you from such a vital task. Um, Always grateful for your time. You all have been listening to another episode of God, Goats, and Government.
Until next time, thanks for all of the shout outs, y'all. We love it when you like. Hey, please, if you're listening in the Apple podcast, scroll on down to the bottom and rate us. The more ratings we have, the easier it is for folks to find us. And hey, if you hate the pod, don't rate us. But if you love us, please give us a 5-star rating so other people can find us. All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody. And special thanks to you, Sharitha J. We so appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Be easy.
Thanks. Because I forgot to say it.